Hello everyone, and welcome to the introduction to the world of Arknights. In this video, you will learn a lot of useful terms to help you better understand just what's going on in the game's story, as it can get quite overwhelming otherwise. If you made your way here, good job, as I recommend watching this before delving into the story itself. The video is going to be separated into several chapters. Terra. Here you will learn about the planet on which most of the events of the game happen. Its natural phenomena and geography play crucial roles in the story, and so it is important that you learn this first. Originium, a core element of the story, a mysterious mineral with multiple fascinating properties. A large number of the story's conflicts are born from its existence and properties. It also lies at the foundation of the game's power system. People. After this, we will move on to learn about Terra's inhabitants, primarily about the many races and their characteristics, countries and factions. Once you get the gist of everything mentioned earlier, you will be ready to learn the political climate and many cultures born on Terra. Chapter 1. Terra. Terra is a planet with great geographical diversity, consisting of a supercontinent and oceans surrounding it. With one exception, all known civilizations of the planet inhabit the said supercontinent. In fact, the term Terra is often used to describe the continent itself rather than the planet. Large portions of the continent are covered by deserts and wastelands, mainly due to the natural desertification coming from its northernmost and southernmost regions, and large portions of land having no access to water, as well as catastrophes, which I will explain in Chapter 2. Because of its sheer size, most of the countries of Terra are landlocked, and the seas are barely explored outside of the southern regions. This also means that we don't really know if there are any landmasses on the planet outside of the supercontinent, though it is fairly likely that there are at least some unexplored dry territories out there. The continent can be separated into the known world and the uncharted world. The known world, as the name suggests, is fully mapped, and the civilizations of Terra dwell there. It includes the central parts of it, with the northern central part being the most fertile and lush, thanks to multiple rivers, some seas, and mild climate, often referred to as Heartland, and is the most abundant in prosperous communities. The more to the north from there we go, the colder and more barren it gets, and the more we go to the south, the hotter and more barren it gets. That isn't to say there are no civilization-suitable areas outside of the Heartlands, there's just less of them, and they're mostly close to the coastline. As for the uncharted world, those are the areas to the north and south, the inky ice fields and the fen hotlands. Extremely harsh conditions of these lands, as well as some otherworldly threats that I will expand on in the story once we get there, make them very difficult to explore and research. Because of that, their layout and nature are largely unknown as of yet. Anything beyond these two areas is also completely uncharted, as reaching them would require crossing those, which is no easy task. Chapter 2. Originium. Originium is a mineral present on Terra. It has a black outer layer with a yellow core. Like many other ores, it forms veins. What is unique to it though is its ability to metastasize and grow in mass on its own, as well as its ability to consume organic matter for that growth. Over time, the ore can also deteriorate and form dust that can form originium clouds and travel long distances. Originium can enhance naturally occurring disasters, such as cold waves, volcanic eruptions, or storms, and when a lot of it gathers up in the atmosphere, it can condense into a large cloud and cause originium storms. Both the powerful natural disasters, as well as the purely originium-based ones, are described by the umbrella term catastrophes. They are usually extremely destructive and are a key factor in how the civilizations of Terra form their habitats, with cities being built on massive plates able to move, so they can monitor and avoid the incoming calamities. These constructions are known as nomadic cities. Catastrophes can be separated into three main types. Type 1. Natural activity, typically considered a natural disaster. Because of intense originium activity on Terra, they are very often enhanced by it, making them much more potent. Type 2. Originium storms. They are more destructive and dangerous than Type 1, and cause large clusters of Originium ore to form at their site. They are one of the main driving forces behind Originium metastasizing around the world. Type 3. Much more rare than the other two types, and most likely caused by large accumulations of man-made Originium waste. Usually manifests through heavy earthquakes followed by supernatural phenomena brought upon by large amounts of Originium stored energy being released in a short time. Examples of the phenomena include gravity altering and mental interference on the site of the catastrophe. Most of these properties are characteristic to what is known as active Originium. When Originium is active, it releases the energy sourced inside, which can be observed as it emits light and heat. In nature, active Originium is most often found as dust hanging in the air or liquid. Also, crystals formed by catastrophes are often active for a while after forming. Active Originium is unstable and dangerous. It can cause explosions and is the driving force behind Originium-based catastrophes. The inactive form is much more stable and finds extensive industrial use, where it's used as fuel through controlled activation and as an energy conductor in devices. Due to its ability to assimilate organic matter, active Originium is also a highly dangerous substance to living organisms. Similarly to heavy metals or microplastics, it can store away in the body through direct contact with active Originium particles, most often occurring during exposure to industrial wastes, catastrophes, particularly Originium stores, or Originium mining. If enough active Originium enters the body, measured in units of Originium per liter of blood, the body is not able to expel it effectively and it starts growing crystals, progress of which is measured in percentage of body cells assimilation. This condition is known as oripathy, a terminal illness with no cure. The only thing that can be done once it develops is to slow down its progress and control the symptoms. The symptoms vary from case to case, but the universal ones include crystallization of the site of contact, followed by progressive crystallization of body parts, causing increasing physical pain and tissue damage, eventually leading to organ failure and death. It can be separated into 3 stages. Stage 1, generally under 0.3 units per liter, a few days after developing a light fever might develop as a result of an immune response. Symptoms are mild or absent completely. Small lesions may appear, usually at the site of contact. Shallow outlines of internal organs can be detected through angiography, and the early stages of infection can often be misdiagnosed as normal other diseases. Stage 2. Between 0.3 and 0.5 units per liter. Assimilation accelerates and symptoms become much more pronounced. The lesions increase in size and number, appearing outside of the original site of contact. Angiography in this stage reveals blurry outlines of internal organs. Stage 3. Exceeding 0.5 units per liter. Originium begins aggressively crystallizing patient's body, causing abnormal growths, loss of mobility, and organ failure. At this stage, current medical methods become unapplicable and nothing can be done anymore to slow the progression of the disease, leading to eventual death. When an infected succumbs to oripathy, their body rapidly crystallizes and withers away, spreading active Originium dust into the air around them, making their bodies a high contagion risk. This trait, combined with their ability to use Originium arts, more on that in a moment, and a lot of misinformation about the ways to contract the disease, lead to heavy ostracization of the infected across the entire planet. Many countries of Terra directly discriminate against those with oripathy through various law regulations, such as quarantine zones, banishment, forced labor camps, or even forced euthanasia. All of it born from fear of contracting the disease. In truth, direct transmission of oripathy between an infected and a healthy person is extremely unlikely, as the only contagious material coming from a living infected is their blood, containing active Originium crystals, which get inactivated very shortly after exiting their bodies, usually in several seconds to minutes. In other words, while there is grounds for some precautions, the general reaction of the Society of Terra is massively overblown comparatively to how contagious it is, not to mention the rapid advancements made in oripathy's treatment. While it is still incurable, the medications designed to slow its progress are already highly potent and are still improved on constantly. leading to infected's average lifespan and comfort of life greatly increasing with proper pharmacotherapy and healthy lifestyle, which has also been shown to slow down the assimilation progress. The current standard method treatment developed by Rhode Island is an oripathy suppressant, a protein able to stimulate cell regeneration of tissues damaged by the crystals, as well as to form a protective protein-based membrane containing the crystals and dispersing energy from the active particles. As for the deceased infected, the safest method of body disposal is generally done using special cremation machines as a way to avoid transmission, in which directly after death the uncrystallized body parts are cremated or freeze-dried, the Originium shards activated to expend all energy and inactivate, and the remains are then buried. Some less advanced methods include dispersing the deceased ashes as they crystallize and wither from the moving plates of the nomadic city, directly opposite of its movement direction. So, despite all the risks and the highly volatile nature of Originium, it is very widely mined and used by nearly all civilizations of Terra. And the reason for that is its properties as an energy source. In fact, Terra is very scarce in any alternative ways to generate energy. As such, while Originium brings death and destruction, it also gives birth to progress and sustains the functioning of Terra's society. Pretty much all of modern technology of the planet is Originium based, including things outside of your conventional energy use, such as firearms, as there is no gunpowder either. Modern society of Terra simply cannot function without the ore, so is willing to risk it. I also mentioned something called Originium arts earlier. You see, other than using the energy stored in Originium as fuel, races of Terra can also naturally manipulate this energy with their bodies to use arts, which is basically casting magic. What kind of magic is dependent on the individual's race, genetics, and abilities. In other words, it's an innate ability that can be mastered by that particular individual, but not really learned by anyone else. The full potential power of an individual's arts is also generally determined by their natural talent. All these innate traits are usually described by the term Originium arts assimilation. For example, if a person is born with fire arts, through training they will be able to improve the things that they can do with fire spells, but they will never be able to learn any other forms of arts, such as lightning, nor will they be able to improve the potency of their spells beyond a certain threshold, their natural limit, so to speak. There are even cases of a person having no assimilation, being completely unable to harmonize with Originium energy, making it impossible for them to cast any arts. Naturally, as arts come from Originium energy being manipulated, to cast them one requires Originium as a catalyst. This usually comes in form of staves, conventional weapons containing Originium, or in infected case, their own bodies. The infected require no external catalyst, and their Originium arts assimilation usually increases after contracting the disease due to their bodies being progressively consumed by the crystals. While this is one of the only upsides of oripathy, it doesn't come without a catch. If an infected overexerts themselves using arts with their body as a catalyst, it may accelerate the progress of the disease, sometimes even killing them on the spot. Chapter 3: People. Terrans aren't regular humans. They resemble them, but possess traits of other animals or mythical creatures, visually ranging from rather small, barely noticeable differences to straight-up bestial looks. These traits dictate most of their physical characteristics. Now, I'll go through all known races of Terrans and give them short descriptions. The races can be divided into several groups. Natives. Sapient races that have lived on Terra for ages, long before the dawn of most other races. They are the original inhabitants of the planet that mostly, with some exceptions, came to be through natural processes of evolution. Out of the native groups, we can separate another group known as Tikas, the most dominant race native to Terrans. After the arrival of the non-native races, they spread out around the globe, causing them to split into several modern races, forming different societies. Non-natives, often described as Terrans. Non-Tikas humanoid races. While they were born on Terra, the force that brought upon their existence is external to the planet. They can be separated into two main groups. Elders. races that were originally of high societal standing, such as royalty, among the Terran races due to their above-average power. They generally possess traits of mythical creatures rather than existing animals. Some are actually sub-races of Ancients, the other main group of Terrans. While they don't directly rule over other Terran races anymore, many of them still hold high positions in their societies. Ancients, the largest group of races of Terra. They are generally weaker than Elders, also having shorter lifespans on average, but are much higher in numbers. Most of them possess traits of existing animals. Aliens, races completely foreign to Terra that emerged on a different planet and came here from them. Let's start now with individual races. Aegir. The first race we're going to talk about is actually more of an umbrella term, referring to all ocean-based races. The reason they're all grouped up, despite having different traits, is that they consider themselves a single ethnicity and have a shared country of origin. As mentioned before, Aegir don't have homogeneous traits, but all the traits come from aquatic life, such as marine mammals, fish, or marine invertebrates. Many Aegir can breathe underwater, and those that don't can hold their breath for far longer than a regular human would be able to. They're all proficient swimmers, and many are skilled sailors. Most Aegir live in the oceanic country of the same name, or in diasporas around coastlines and large inland bodies of water. As for the ones living in mostly landlocked regions, because of their aquatic origin, they have higher than average needs for hydration and moisturization, making them prone to dehydration, especially in dry, arid environments. Anasa, race with traits of Hindu Buddhism mythological beings, or exactly Asuras, Rakshasas, and Yakshas. They have horns and tails and possess high physical strength. Some of them develop a dark halo behind their head. Those that do are referred to as enlightened ones. They believe in the cycle of reincarnation and are de facto creators of the Terran version of Buddhism. They mostly inhabit the northwestern deserts and wilderness of Yan, where they have integrated with the Yanese population thanks to sharing of a religion through their monks. Anasa share a close ancestry with Oni, as originally they were the same group of Tikas. They then split between Yanese deserts and Higashi, splitting into the two groups, and are related to Sarkas as well. As such, they're also more vulnerable to oripathy. Unlike Sarkas though, they see it more as a blessing than a curse due to the differences in their cultures. Similarly to their cousins, they're able to use some witchcraft, an ancient complex form of arts that uses life force. Anati, race with traits of Museloidae, a superfamily of carnivorous mammals such as red pandas, skunks, badgers, and raccoons. As such, they usually have round ears and large furry tails. They mostly inhabit mountainous regions where they adapted to the environment, becoming proficient climbers and diggers, often living in cavern systems they created themselves. There's a tradition in their culture to welcome any guest into those caverns, thus, many travelers scaling the mountains of Terra can count on them for shelter. Anati are somewhat feeble but possess high agility, allowing them to traverse difficult terrain easily. Because of that, many of them work as traveling merchants or catastrophe messengers, environmental specialists monitoring occurrences and movements of catastrophes in order to warn locals about them. Anuran, race with traits of frogs and toads. Similarly to most Aegir, their traits are not strongly pronounced visually, usually through occasional patches of frog-like skin on their bodies. Also similarly to Aegir, they prefer areas with high moisture. Their race is not very high in numbers, and most of them live in the rainforest located around eastern Sargon and southern Bolivar. They share most of their habitats with Arcosarians, who they interact with on many occasions, mainly through trade of goods or organizing friendly competitions between them. Most Anurans have the unique trait of producing poisons through their skin, and can control its output as well as potency at will. They're also proficient in camouflage, and many of them are born with arts aiding in it, for example, illusion or invisibility. Arcosaria, race with traits of crocodilians. Scales on skin, large, very strong tails, high physical strength and durability, It is also one of the races with characteristic pointy human ears in case of the more human-like individuals. Archosaurians are also somewhat scarce around the world, with most of them living in the rainforests of eastern Sargon, sharing their habitat with Anurans. The Akauayan region is especially densely populated by them, and it can be considered their cultural capital. Most large tribes live there. Typical Archosaurian tribes have warrior culture, with most members, both female and male, trained to be skilled fighters and hunters their whole life. Many tribes decide on their leader through contest of strength. Archosaurians are also very good swimmers, being able to camouflage in water and swim very fast thanks to their strong tails. Most of them take pride in their tail, often employing it to perform various tasks or be used in games. Some Archosaurian tribes seem to have a very noticeable gender dimorphism, with males having more bestial traits while females are more humanoid. Aslans. This one is a bit unique. You see, Aslans are a race based on lions. The problem is, they are not an actual biological race. They are part of felines, race with traits of, well, felines. While they do have traits unique to lions, such as characteristic lion tails, golden manes, and above average physical strength, they are still a part of this rather large and diverse race. The separation between them is completely artificial and originated in an Aslan family that began conquest in Sargon in ancient times, believing their traits to be signs of royalty and conquerors, and justifying further conquest through this belief. In other words, Aslans are a fake race born of elitism and classism. To this day, the Aslans hold high power in several parts of Terra. Beast Lords. These are also rather special. They are animal spirits that were separated from their bodies and became wise, immortal, and powerful. They are the sentinel spirits, representing different races of Terra. Most people are unable to see or contact them. I won't delve deeper here, as I think it's better to learn more about them through the game's story and other future videos. Caprinae. Race with traits of caprines and antelopes. Large horns and flappy or perky ears. Most Caprinae are born with natural talent for Originium arts and nimbleness, and so, the race spawns many skilled casters and musicians, and their culture values those domains very much. They are a common race living around the globe, but the most concentrated population is stationed in Leifanion. In fact, the most likely reason for Leifanion's propagation of arts and music is its predominant Caprinae population. Caprinae are sometimes mistaken for Sarkas due to their similarities, large horns, and talent for arts. Cautus. Race with traits of rabbits and hares. Small-statured and fragile, with large ears giving them great hearing, short fluffy tails, and high fertility. They form large families with very strong bonds, supporting each other and living together most of their lives in large tunnel systems commonly called rabbit holes. They predominantly live in Rimbiliton, where the families form mining associations and extract Originium, boosting the country's economy and political standing. Cautuses that emigrate and decide to live on their own usually still get extensive material and emotional support from their families, even when away. Cerato. Race with traits of rhinoceroses. Muscular and strong, of average height, with a horn or two growing on their forehead. They are fast runners, but tire quickly due to their naturally heavy weight. Ceratos are rather uncommon and live mostly in oasis settlements in Sargon. They take pride in their horns, and many of them use them as their sole weapons. It is common for two Ceratos to have a fight using them. It is both an honorable duel and a way to polish and maintain them in good shape. Sargonian Ceratos have a tradition of aviculture by keeping and breeding different species of fowl beasts. In fact, there is a species of a Sargonian fowl beast that builds a symbiotic relationship with the Ceratos. Cerberus. Similarly to Aslan, Cerberuses aren't really a separate race to Pero, a race with dog traits. In fact, they possess even less discerning traits from other Peros than Aslans to other felines. They are only separate because the Pero nobility consider themselves superior to the rest of them. Chimera. Individuals that are mixes of different unrelated races generally not attainable in normal circumstances. Usually when two people of different races have children, they only inherit the race of one parent, with the exception of some closely related races, where they can also have mixed traits. These are not considered chimeras. Chimeras are special. We will talk more about them in future videos. Collapsal. Malevolent, other dimensional entities inspired by the outer gods of the Cthulhu mythos with reality-altering abilities. They show hostility to all life forms and have the ability to corrupt them, making them hostile as well. Their forms are otherworldly and hard to define, with the main characteristic trait of their presence being a star-shaped eye. Collapsals appear in the Infi ice fields and have been fought there by Sami warriors, protecting the lands from their advancements. They also used to appear in Fen hotlands, but were completely conquered and banished from this reality by two powerful kings and their armies around 1,000 years ago. The reason they appear is the devices known as stargates, ancient contraptions left by a long-gone civilization that is meant to function as a special wormhole, but has a side effect of also functioning as an interdimensional wormhole, allowing collapsals into the Terran reality. Draco. Race with traits of Western dragons. Long horns, hard scales, strong serpentine tails, and high physical strength. They are often mistaken for weavers, who share those traits, but can be distinguished by their natural talent for unique flame Originium arts, such as direct control of thermal energy of matter, or direct control of cell metabolism. Draco's flame arts are very powerful and unique to their race, making them fearsome casters and warriors. The race is very scarce in modern world, mostly forming sparse communities in Victoria, and especially Terra. Many people believe them to be completely extinct, as they are so rare. Dracos used to be the rulers of several regions of the Heartland, but were progressively eliminated from their positions, and many of their lineages were extinguished or massively reduced through political intrigues and conspirations. Many folklore legends exist about various Draco figures, but quite a few are completely fabricated or heavily overblown. Durin. Race inspired by dwarves, though their physical appearance doesn't resemble the typical Lord of the Rings style dwarves. They're more akin to gnomes or halflings. They are short and stout, live in underground city-states that connect between each other through complicated subterranean systems, and have some very advanced and unique technology. Durins are sensitive to geological changes, making them proficient miners and geologists. The race is generally peaceful and avoids conflict, seeking coexistence with other cultures. Most of the Durin live in the aforementioned system of city-states, which is considered a country of the same name, Durin. As they are of Tika's origin, they share ancestry with the Sarkas. They split off during the Tika's diaspora and ventured underground, where they created their civilization and evolved apart from their brethren to adapt to the mines and caverns. Most of the Durin country is completely uncharted to the surface dwellers, and interactions between them and the Durin are mostly limited to Durins coming to the surface. The contact between them has been kept for most of the Durin country existence, but only recently increased in frequency and intensity, mostly thanks to the lift built by Durins in order to access shallow Originium veins closer to the surface. This led to a better understanding of their race and culture, but much is still unknown. Elaphia. Race with traits of deer, giraffes, and okapi. The typical Elathians have antlers covered in velvet when young, short, rounded tails, funnel-shaped ears, and inhabit many forested regions of Terra, particularly Sami, believed to be the race's homeland, and the Leithanian. Many Elathians are talented musicians and so thrive in that country's culture. Elathians hailing from northern Sargon and southern Columbia, on the other hand, have typical traits of giraffes, their long brush-like tails, tall height, and ossicones. Elathians often take pride in their antlers and let them grow long into their older age. Elf. Race with traits of elves, as the name suggests. Long pointy ears, extremely long lifespan, and no visible aging of their bodies. Elves are a race created by Feranmuts, the godly beings of Terra. There are two main populations of this extremely rare race, Water elves living in Sami, created for the purpose of healing the patron Faramut of the region, and wood elves living in Yan, created as followers to a Faramut there. Elves are extremely sensitive to Originium, and oripathy is much more lethal to them than to any other races. When most races can live years with the disease, elves wither away within months of contracting it, drastically shortening their normally nigh eternal lifespan, and the standard therapy for oripathy doesn't really work on them. As such, since the dawn of the industrialization of Terra through the introduction of Originium-based technology, the Originium pollution of the world has reached an all-time high, and the race has massively dwindled in numbers, being now considered endangered. Because of this trait, they're also unable to use any form of Originium arts, but compensate for it with magic they're naturally born with through their connection to the Faramut. The remaining populations of elves mostly live in pollution-free havens, generally the aforementioned Sami and the Yan communities, living in untamed forests deep within the regions. There are some individual elves that decide to abandon their hermit lifestyle and live among other Terrans in nomadic cities, choosing the risk of catching oripathy over seclusion. Feline. Race with traits of the suborder Feliformia, particularly felids, but also some viveroids. It is one of the three predominant races of modern Terra that can be found all around the planet. As such, they can be quite diverse. The most typical traits, though, are pointy triangular ears, long fluffy tails, pupils with the ability to slit, as well as keen senses and a natural talent for stealth and flexibility. While felines can be found in pretty much all countries of Terra, the biggest population is located in Victoria, mainly due to the Sargonian monarchy of Aslans advancing their reach of power into the Heartlands and other felines following them as their subjects. Naturally, the Sargonian population of felines itself is also rather large. Faramut. Race of godlike entities natural to Terra. They are usually gargantuan in size, are completely immune to Originium's influence, and possess various abilities typically attributed to deities, like altering weather, creating life, or terraforming. Their abilities often specific to the region they watch over. Faramuts are biologically immortal, but can be killed or shattered into smaller fragments. When Faramuts die, they often take form of geographical landscapes, such as mountains, merging with the land. These living gods can be found in many places around the world in scarce numbers, but are most often associated with Sargon, Sami, Chirag, and Yan. Forte. Race with traits of bovines, as well as camels and llamas. Pointed, fairly thick horns, protruding rounded ears, long thin tails with tufts of hair, limited flexibility, and high muscle mass. Some Sargonian Forte populations present different traits typical for camels and llamas, such as high adaptation to arid environments and small rounded ears. Despite their seemingly brutish build, Forte's culture is known for cultivation of philosophy and literature, with many known thinkers and scholars in Terra's history being of this race. They are fairly common around the world, but the highest population is located in Minos, their homeland. Fortes are believed to be one of the first races to start farming crops, their culture having deeply ingrained agrarian traditions, with many members of the race employing themselves as farmers. Hippogriff. Race with traits of the mythological hippogriffs. To be more exact, they are liberi with certain character traits. They have feather crest resembling ears growing on their head and horse tails. At the end of civilization, away from the ongoing war with the Tikas, they ruled over the enslaved ancient races there until the Ursus race organized a rebellion, toppled them, and created the Empire of Ursus. After those events, the hippogriffs faced long-lasting persecution in the Empire and their numbers decreased. Nowadays, they still mostly inhabit its territory and are either completely integrated with the common folk or hold low-level power positions. Itra. Race with traits of musketeer. Similar to Elafians, though lacking any form of antlers and having bigger ears. Their sweat glands can produce a unique, fragrant scent. Their ancestors used to grow tusks characteristic to the real-life musketeer, but the trait has gone dormant in modern times. Itra are a rare race, mostly inhabiting frigid, mountainous areas, particularly Chirag, where it is likely they were the first practitioners of the country's main religion, and spread it out to other races inhabiting the region. Many of their communities live an isolationist life, trying to avoid contact with outsiders. Kukulkan, race with traits of the feathered serpent from Mesoamerican mythology, most commonly known by its Aztec name, Quetzalcoatl. They possess traits of both Liberi and Fidia, growing crowns of feathers on their head and serpentine tails from their rear. Most of them are born with weather-altering arts. Kukulkan are an extremely rare race that used to populate Sargon. They have a very long lifespans, spanning several hundred years, but in modern day, only a handful are left. This is because of a cruel ritual that was practiced among them, in which a newborn member would get collective ancestral memories implanted into their brains. The ritual caused severe damage to the brain and shortened their lifespans dramatically, so their population has massively dwindled along the 400 years during which the ritual was practiced. Kuranta, race with traits of horses, donkeys, and zebras. Funnel-shaped ears, tall height, long brush-like tails. While not as naturally strong as some of the powerhouse races like Fortis or Arcosarians, they are generally fit and can run very fast for extended periods of time thanks to their pristine stamina. Many Kurantas still attain outstanding strength thanks to rigoristic training. All these traits make them excellent warriors and soldiers. The race is widespread across the globe, particularly around grasslands. Their biggest population can be found in Kazimierz, the land of the knights which they created. Knighthood rose from Kuranta communities inhabiting this region early into the rise of civilization, from groups of trained warriors responsible for protection of the said communities. Kurantas have a tradition of strong family ties and hierarchy, respecting the elders, with the head of family taking the role of the leading knight of the knight family. This tradition is still prevalent despite the massive commercialization of the knighthood in Kazimierz. Kilin, race with traits of Xilin, a beast from Chinese mythology. They have draconic horns in shapes reminiscent of antlers and brush-like tails similar to that of Kurantas. Kilin are a rare race, only appearing in Yan. They are known for their natural talent for lightning-based Originium arts, as well as their long-lasting employment by the Chinese rulers as the upholders of law. Liberi, umbrella term for races with traits of birds. They grow feathers on their head along their hair, may grow feathers in other body parts, and some are born with beaks, and they generally have keen senses. Their physical traits are overall average compared to other races, and the most notable thing about them is that they are significantly lighter for their heights compared to other races. Liberi are one of the three predominant races of modern Terra and can be found all around the world. The biggest populations exist in Iberia, Colombia, and Laterano. The race is very large and diverse, with some scholars and scientists even arguing it should be split into several smaller races. Lung, race with traits of eastern dragons. Antler-like horns, slender, scaly tails with tufts of hair, and some individuals also possess some bestial traits, mainly fish or lion traits. They are fairly average all around when it comes to physical traits. Lungs can be found in abundance around Yan and Higashi, and not really anywhere else. They have ruled over Yan for the better part of its history, and many Lungs hold high positions in many domains in the country. Lung have a liking for science and history, creating reliable chronicles of various important events. Lupo, race with traits of wolves. Pricked ears and brush-like tails. They bear a lot of similarities with other canine races, their cousins, but can be easily told apart through their coarser hair and very distinct culture. Lupos can be found in many places, but their highest populations are in Syracusa and Eastern Lefanian, and this is where their unique culture can mainly be observed. Lupos live familial lives, but their sense of family is very twisted. A typical Syracusan family treats its members as expendable pawns, and other families as rivals and competitors, often resulting in bloody altercations. This view is born of the influence of Lupo's beast lords and how they treat the race they are the supposed sentinels of. As a result, Syracusa is riddled with mafias. Manticore, race with traits of manticores from the Persian mythology. They have batwing-looking appendages on their heads and strong and often poisonous stingers. Most manticores have a talent for camouflage arts, making them excellent at ambushes and espionage. The race is rather rare and lives mostly in secluded communities around Sargon, far away from civilization. Knights Mora. One of the several elder variants of Kuranta. This one is based on mares from Slavic and Nordic folklore. Their characteristic traits compared to other Kurantas are red hair, as well as psychic and illusory arts that can instill terror into their enemies. Knights Moras hail from the ancient Knights Moran Khaganate, where 1,000 years ago they were united under the banner of Karandu Khagan in order to conquer the continent of Terra. This event is considered to be one of the most important of the current era and has massively influenced the political climate. After Khagan's disappearance, Khaganate ceased to exist and Knights Moras dispersed all around the world, nurturing their nomadic lifestyle. Nowadays, the race is extremely rare and only some small communities can be found around Sargon. Nine-tailed Vulpo. An elder subrace of Vulpo, race with fox traits. Most recognizable by the fact that they have 9 tails, as the name suggests. They can be found in Higashi, where they contributed a lot to creating the country. In modern times, they most often hold high religious positions there. Observer. Mysterious race of incomprehensible beings that are able to bend reality and destroy everything in their wake. They are seemingly omnipotent and beyond human understanding and are known to destroy any developing civilizations they notice, using their reality bending to completely obliterate them and send them into oblivion. For more information, you'll have to check out the story of the game itself or my future videos on them. Oni. Race with traits of Oni from Japanese mythology. 1 or 2 horns protruding from their forehead and high physical strength. They split from other Tikas along with Anasa and moved together to the east, looking for new land, where they split again, with Oni moving to Higashi. In Higashi, they waged wars and plundered, but were eventually defeated and integrated into the society of the country. Unlike the peaceful Anasa, Oni have a warrior tradition they stay in touch with from their Tika's origin. They have a natural tendency to go berserk in battle, and so began practicing spiritual self-strengthening through meditation and cultivation of martial arts, giving rise to their unique culture, as well as giving them opportunity to better integrate with Higashi's society. Their self-strengthening philosophy, together with Anasa's teachings about peace and reincarnation, gave rise to Terra's version of Buddhism, which made it easier for the 2 Tika's races to integrate with non-Tika's races through preaching and spreading this religion. Because of some historical context that I won't go into detail about here, Oni also have a tradition of only having and using their given names. They don't have family names, or at least they don't use them. Pegasus. Another elder subrace of Kuranta, this one with traits of Pegasi from Greek mythology. Their main discerning traits are blonde or white hair and a talent for lumino-kinetic arts. Pegasi used to be the royal dynasty of Kazimierz before being toppled after losing the war against Knights Moras. Nowadays, Pegasi still mostly hold high positions of power, mainly in Kazimierz's military and law enforcement, clinging to the chivalric ideals that many have forgotten in modern commercialistic Kazimierz. Perro. Race with traits of dogs. Pricked, floppy or folded ears, pointed and curved tails, keen sense of smell. Very expressive use of both of these organs. Similar traits to Lupos, one of the most notable differences being their hair and fur being softer. Perros are one of the 3 predominant races of modern Terra and can be found pretty much everywhere, with their biggest population being located in Bolivar. Similarly to Lupos, Perros have a strong family bond, but unlike their wolfen cousins, they have a much healthier outlook on their relatives, free from the factors that twisted in Lupo population of Syracusa. Perros are usually pretty friendly and easygoing and value good relations with people from their social circles. Petram. Race with traits of turtles. Though to be clear, Petrams are rather unique and don't have any observable bestial traits. This is most likely linked to the fact that the race has the highest natural Originium assimilation out of all of them, making them resemble regular humans the most. The high assimilation unfortunately makes them more susceptible to oripathy as a result. Petrams are an extremely rare race and can only be found in small populations around southern coastlines, particularly in Iberia, where they live in close ties with the aquatic aegir. with which they have an unprecedented interracial relationship of fellowship. The two races treat themselves as brethren. Petrams are mainly known for their intricate knowledge and skills in metallurgy, being experts at creating highly advanced alloys and tools that can last for centuries. Phidia, race with traits of snakes, long scaly tails, scales on parts of their body, tall height, keen senses, slender and lightweight. Interestingly enough, Phidians do not produce any venom naturally, though many are skilled toxicologists. They are a somewhat rare race and have a very individualistic nature. As a result, they don't really form communities, but can be found individually across the entire Terran continent. The biggest numbers of them can be found in Sargon and Iberia. Phidians are known to have very special interests that they totally devote themselves to, often achieving impressive results in their field of expertise. Pilosa, race with traits of sloths. They have a small tail, are rather slow in their speech and movement, and are not very talkative. On the other hand, they are very cautious and focused when working. Pilosa are extremely rare, with small populations existing mainly in Sargon. Predecessor, a race of aliens that came to Terra from Talos II 13,000 years ago. They have been mostly wiped out by the observers. They were a highly advanced race able of space travel. Many ancient devices and institutes built by them can be found on Terra even to this day, including the Stargates. They are also the creators of Originium. Terra would be a completely different place if not for their arrival. They seem to possess traits of regular humans, though much is still unknown about them, for example their lifespan. As for the rest of information about them, I'll leave that for other videos, as they are rather interesting. Reproba, race with traits of hyenas, pricked ears, tails with tufts, spots or stripes on fur. What's unique to this race is that female Reprobas are generally stronger than males, which lead to a matriarchal system in their culture. Similarly to Perros and Lupos, Reprobas have strong family bonds. In their variant, they value integral unity and discipline the most. The families can reach very high numbers, often over 100, and usually live independently in deserts of West Sargon. The typical family is ruled by a matriarch, elected by the family members for being the strongest, gaining the role of the tribe's guardian. Reprobas live in harsh environments and as such are well trained in combat, local biology, geology and animal breeding. Individuals that have decided to emigrate and leave their nomadic life behind often find employment in those fields amidst other Terran civilizations. Reprobas are subject to moderate amount of racism due to their frequent interactions with the local Sarkas population. Sancta, race with traits of angels. One of the Tikas races that separated from the rest when they found a mysterious supercomputer known as the Law, which altered their biology drastically. Sancta have halos and wings of light that hang above their head and behind their backs respectively. They have a very unique ability, simply called empathy, which allows them to feel the emotions of fellow Sancta when nearby. This ability, while considered weird and privacy intruding by other races, is something Sancta are completely used to, and it is thanks to it that their country, Laterano, functions so well. They have a strong sense of unity and understanding for each other, and they consider empathy to be a gift from the Law. Speaking of the Law, Sancta founded a religion around the computer and strictly adhered to the mandates it created through its directives. They're also the creators of guns, which in the world of Arknights function through a stable and precise channeling of arts through them, something Sancta are naturally talented at, making them skilled sharpshooters. All Sancta receive their first firearm at the age of 12 and undergo extensive training on their usage. In fact, most Sancta consider guns to be the symbol of their faith in the Law and take great care of them. A lot of holy imagery in Laterano also includes the saints holding various firearms. Due to their long history and many conflicts, Sancta and Sarkas are on very bad terms, frequently fighting in the region between Laterano and Kazdal. Sarkas, race with traits of demons. Sarkas are the Tikas that remained after the diaspora at dusk of their civilization, and they carry the traditions of Tikas with them. They are very varied, having numerous subraces with very different physical traits. The most common subraces have demonic horns and tails, and are proficient arts users. They possess multiple unique traits compared to other races of Terra. Sarkas were the first race to come into contact with the oldest form of Originium, and are also native to Terra, where they evolved naturally without its presence. Because of that, they are more vulnerable to oripathy than most other races. They have a unique form of art known as witchcraft, in which they use their life force to enhance the potency. Sarkas are also known to have longer lifespans than most Terran races, spanning centuries or even millennia in some subraces' case. The race is also capable of reading collective racial memory stored in their genes and feel deaths of fellow Sarkas. They feel and sometimes even see souls of the dead, and this gave birth to their vengeful and bitter nature that they are known for. After Tikas lost the war against the non-native Terran races, resulting in the fall of their civilization and their diaspora, they have fallen to the lowest dredges of societal standing on their planet. To this day, Sarkas face heavy discrimination all around the world, being seen as harbingers of oripathy, warmongers, and bandits. Sarkas are by far the most explored race of Arknights, and I could spend a lot more time talking about them, but I think it's best saved for when we get to parts of the stories that delve deeper into their culture and the events surrounding them in the future videos. Savra. Race with traits of lizards and salamanders. Scaly tails, skeleton skin, occasional horns, pointy ears, or a complete lack of them in case of more bestial individuals, and many are experts at camouflage and camouflage arts. They prefer warm, sunny climates and are solitary, living mostly in desert regions of Sargon and Rim Biliton. Savrans are well known for their long lifespan, usually living over 100 years, with the potential to live over 200. Seaborn. Race of highly adaptable sea creatures, inspired by tyrannies from Warhammer 40k and deep ones from Cthulhu mythos. As the name suggests, they dwell in the sea waters surrounding Terra, especially in regions around Aegir and Iberia. Seaborn possess the ability to somatically alter their souls, not requiring gene inheritance to properly adapt to their environment. They function as a hive mind, though the higher level specimens seem to possess at least some level of individuality. Seaborn's absolute priority is the survival of a race no matter what. This makes them highly dangerous to other Terran races who they are able to assimilate into themselves, forcibly connecting them to the hive mind and corrupting their bodies. There also exists a church organization of cultists who worship the Seaborn, believing that assimilation with them is the way to free the world of its plights. Seaborn are also quite extensively explored by the game's story, and we'll save more details for videos that focus on them. Unicorn. Yet another elder subrace of Kurantas. There are no playable operators of this race, and they are not very prevalent in the story, so we don't know much about them. What I can say is that they can be told apart by the horn growing from their forehead. That's about it. Ursus. Race with traits of bears. Round ears, short tails, big and strong stature, good endurance. Ursai live mostly in the Ursus Empire, which they founded after overthrowing the Hippogriffs. They also can be found in temperate regions of other countries, such as Kazimierz, Yan, Sami, or Chierak. Weaver. Race with traits of wyverns. Large horns, strong scaly tails, great physical strength. Because of their similarities, Weavers and Dracos are often mistaken for one another. Unlike Dracos, Weavers, however, do not have innate talent for supreme pyrokinetic arts. On the other hand, they possess a unique metabolic adaptation, being able to slow down their metabolic rate, most likely an adaptation born from their origin as the dwellers of harsh Sargonian deserts in its northern parts. Weavers have a long-standing tradition of training their children from a young age for combat. As such, many of them find huge success in military careers, either through serving as Sargon's royal guards or the regular army, or through serving in the Victorian army. Weavers aren't particularly common, but can be found in decent numbers in northern Sargon, where they originate from, as well as Victoria, where their biggest diaspora is located, due to many of them escaping there in the past after a failed rebellion against Sargon's royalty. In recent years, Weaver population in Columbia has also been on the rise, due to many members of the race moving after retirement from military and creating families there. Vulpo. Race with traits of foxes. Large, protruding ears and very bushy tails, more agile than other canine races. They have a smaller population than most of their cousins, but can be found all around the globe, with a particularly sizable population in Siracusa, where, influenced by the Lupos, many of them started creating their own crime families. Other than those, Vulpos often employ themselves as messengers and mercenaries due to their nimbleness. Vulpos are quite proud of their large tails and take great care of them. Zalak. Race with traits of rodents, as well as occasional rodent-adjacent animals like opossums, shrews, or even moles. They have either rounded or pointed ears, bushy or slim tails, small stature, and keen senses. They are also quite fertile, making their population large all around Terra. Many find success in careers such as messengers and scouts. Some Zalaks feel a natural discomfort when around felines and as such try to avoid their company. Alright, this concludes the race section. That was a mouthful. Chapter 4. Countries and factions. There are quite a few of those on Terra, and we will now shortly go through the most important of them and shortly describe what they are about. Aegir, an underwater country south from Iberia, inhabited by the race of the same name. The country is a highly advanced confederate technocracy with a unique political structure, unlike any found in land-dwelling civilizations. There is no unified ruler of the entire country. Instead, each city is governed by their consul, with the help of their technocratic officers who assign and manage social roles to Aegirian citizens. Technology of Aegir is much more advanced than other Terran civilizations, and they are the only known modern-day civilization to be completely free of Originium-based technology, making their infection rate with oripathy very low. The reason for these technological advancements is their inheritance of the lost technologies left behind by the predecessors. Their vast exploration of Terra's oceans has led to an unfortunate awakening of the seaborne around 200 years ago. Since then, Aegirians have been facing their threat with varying success. The conflict resulted in some of them emigrating and arriving in Iberia. This event not only made the land dwellers aware of the country in the first place, it also led to Iberia's rapid advancements in marine technology thanks to the immigrants' help. Aegir aligned with Iberia and the Golden Age of Iberia. The Golden Age, however, was cut short with the event known as Profound Silence, a seaborne-induced catastrophe that wrecked Iberia's coastline and ended their alliance with Aegir, which adopted an isolationist policy once again. The country takes inspiration from Atlantis and the Roman Empire. Abyssal Hunters, Aegirian super soldier squad, developed in order to fight the seaborne threat. They are bioengineered using seaborne material to enhance their physical capabilities, making them some of the most powerful and fearsome warriors of Terra. They possess inhuman strength, speed and agility, senses and reflexes, and all use rather basic melee weapons that benefit the most from their monstrous power. The organization has been officially disbanded after an extremely heavy battle against one of Seaborne's Leviathans, in which vast majority of Abyssal Hunters died. The remaining survivors of the squad are still active without Aegir's authorization. Abyssal Hunters are primarily inspired by claymores from the titular manga series, as well as hunters from Bloodborne. Babel, a Kasdalian paramilitary organization formed mostly by the loyalists of the exiled Sarkas king, Teresa, serving as her de facto provisional government. Their main goal was mending the relationship between Sarkas and Terran races. The organization was toppled through a conspiracy, but their ideals were adopted as part of Rose Island Pharmaceuticals' mantra. Bolivar, a former Iberian colony that was granted independence through geopolitical pressure, bordering Colombia and Sargon. It's rich in resources, which led to political superpowers taking interest in controlling it after it separated from Iberia. First, after gaining independence, their government collapsed quickly, and Leifanian immediately seized the opportunity to establish a puppet regime there. And after Colombia emerged as an independent country, it also sought control over its natural deposits. This resulted in a proxy war between the two superpowers, with locals eventually taking up the arms themselves and fighting to liberate the country from the influence of both. The civil war has currently reached a stalemate, with Lithuania controlling the west with a puppet monarchy state, Colombia controlling the east through their support for warlords upholding an oligarchy there, and some areas being liberated by the local resistance fighters, which they rule as an authoritarian junta. Bolivar takes inspiration from Latin America, particularly Venezuela, as well as Mexico and Brazil. Colombia, formerly known as the Colombian Union, a former Victorian colony that gained independence through a war supported by Gaul, located in the northwest, bordering Bolivar, Kazimierz, Chirac, Sami, Sargon, and Ursus. After gaining freedom, the country quickly rose to become Terra's youngest superpower. As the nation is young, it is a melting pot of various cultures and races. It is a federal presidential republic using the modern democratic institution of three separate branches: legislative, executive, and juridical. However, the country suffers from lack of term limits and has had the same president since the founding, continuously being elected every time due to popularity, which results in weakening the democracy as he gains more and more power as the head of state. Colombia is known for its pioneering efforts in scientific research and exploration of the wastelands, as well as its bold and aggressive policy of expanding its influence and power on Terra, through many means, such as arms race, espionage, and direct attempt of taking control, as can be seen in Bolivar. The country proclaims itself as a nation of equity, and as such, infected and sarcas are treated better than in most countries, making many of them immigrate there in hopes of living a decent life. However, the country also exploits them through enticing them to settle in the country's wasteland regions as the first pioneers of them. As a result, these regions are often plagued with poverty, catastrophes, crime, and underdeveloped public infrastructure. This exploitation is part of the reason why Colombia's territorial expansion into the wastelands is so effective. Colombia takes inspiration from USA and Canada. Black Steel Worldwide, a Colombian private military company active across the globe. The company operates from the biggest landship on Terra, known as Fort Baron, and is armed with the cutting-edge military equipment, employing highly trained professional mercenaries. Black Steel started as a group of mercenaries formed by the veterans of Colombia's War of Independence. As such, their early activity was mainly government and corporate contracts from Colombia. But after a certain incident, they began separating from the nation and moved on to a global market, expanding their company into Black Steel Worldwide. Nowadays, the PMC takes contracts from bidders across the entire Terra. Black Steel Worldwide is inspired by Blackwater Worldwide. Rhinelab, a Colombian scientific consortium and research center. It's mainly active in fields of biology, robotics, Originium research, as well as uncharted lands exploration. It is Colombia's most successful scientific institution, highly contributing to the country's exemplary advancements in various directions, even pioneering in space exploration among modern Terran civilizations. This success, however, doesn't just come from the hard work and expertise of Rhinelab's research teams, but also from their unethical and inhumane experiments and practices behind the scenes. Rhinelab is structured in a highly specialized section system, which allows it to function as well as it does. Despite many controversies in the recent years, the company still thrives at the top of the Colombian scientific world. Siesta, formerly known as the Siesta Free State, a parliamentary republican city-state located on a peninsula in the Sea of Claricide, bordering Iberia, Sargon, and Victoria. It is independent, but the city council willingly submitted itself under Colombia's jurisdiction as its commonwealth. Siesta began as a Colombian trading outpost for the purpose of establishing diplomacy with Iberia, but the profound silence has rendered this function null and severed its ties to its homeland, resulting in its independence. A few years later, Victoria took this opportunity to try and annex the city, so Siesta willingly became Colombia's commonwealth to avoid it. In practice, the city still remains independent from the Union in both diplomacy and sovereignty. The city-state's economy greatly flourishes thanks to transitioning into a tourism-focused city from its trade-oriented roots, serving as a holiday resort as well as a musical hotspot of Terra. In the recent years, a volcano crisis forced Siesta to convert from a sedentary city into a nomadic one. The transition was successful and it remains prosperous. Siesta takes inspiration from Hawaii and Puerto Rico. Followers, a small wandering medic group formed by Shining, a former member of Kazdal's Confessary, a secret occult society who seek to ensure their eternal royal bloodline as the King of Sarkas. Originally, the group was consisting of 2 members, the aforementioned Shining as well as Liz, also known as Nightingale, also related to Confessary. After their departure from the organization, they wandered around the wilderness aiding those in need. Later, they incorporated a new member, Margaret Nerl, a Pegasus Knight exiled from Kazimierz, who they met while fighting off bandits. The trio traveled around Terra, providing treatment for those they encountered, until they came into contact with Rose Island, who they joined as an independent squad. Since then, they have participated in a number of operations together with the company. Higashi, a country bordering Yan to its northeast. It also borders Ursus from the west. It is a diarchy, with the north being a shogunate and south a constitutional monarchy. Higashi's population has many races, but the 2 biggest populations are Aegir and Oni. Higashi's emperor line is descended from a venerated goddess. However, during medieval times, 2 clans of these lines emerged, splitting the country into the north ruled by the Kugon, and the south ruled by the Mitsumoto. This led to a long-lasting, devastating civil war due to their contradicting policies, north more conservative and south progressive. The 2 warring sides eventually came to a truce when Ursus invaded the country, and both clans were forced to cooperate to fight off the empire. Since then, they tried to uphold the peace and rebuild the country after the wars. Higashi is inspired by Japan. Particularly, the north is based on Sengoku and Edo periods, while the south is based on late Showa and early Heisei eras. Iberia, formerly known as the Kingdom of Iberia, is a country bordering Laterano, Sargon, and Victoria. It is an authoritarian theocracy that was once ruled by secular royalty, but since the Profound Silence that killed the last king, the rule has transferred to Inquisition, which enforces a strong isolationist policy on the country. The nation's population is mostly Liberi, with some Aegir immigrants, who unfortunately have been facing severe religious persecution since the Profound Silence due to Church of the Deep's infiltration into the country. Iberia was a prosperous maritime empire, but that event has ended its time as a superpower. It killed the country's sovereign, destroyed the capital, destroyed nearly all coastline infrastructure as well as most of its navy, and infested the coast with seaborne. As such, the country has been trying to recover ever since. Iberia is inspired by the Spanish Empire, with some elements of Portuguese Empire as well. Kazdal. This one is a bit complicated. Kazdal in Sarkas culture was never meant to represent a nation or an ethnicity. It was a term referring to their home, their paradise. So in a way, Kazdal used to be the entirety of Terra before the fall of Tika's civilization. After the Tika's diaspora, the country known as Kazdal was situated in the region known as the Bleached Wasteland, situated between Columbia and Sargon. But that nation doesn't exist anymore. Nowadays, what Sarkas referred to as Kazdal is a small city-state between Syracusa, Ursus, and Yan, and is ruled by the King of Sarkas. The promised land of the Sarkas has suffered great turmoil throughout history and faced many civil wars, even in recent years, giving birth to many Sarkas mercenaries. The topic of Kazdal is explored at large in the main story of the game, so while it may seem a bit confusing to you now, it will become clear once we delve deeper into that in other videos. This is only a surface level presentation. Kazdal is inspired by mostly Israel, both biblical and modern, with elements of the German Empire. Kazimierz, formerly known as the United Knightly Territory of Kazimierz, or Kazimierz Alliance for short. Country bordering Columbia, Chierak, Leifanian, Sami, Ursus, and Victoria, encompassing most of the northern grasslands of Terra's heartlands. It is a mix of a feudal chivalric confederation with corporatocratic oligarchy, ruled by the Grand Knight. Its population is formed in majority by Kurantaus. Kazimierz is famous for its generational knightly traditions as well as its newly risen merchant class, the 2 sides conflicting each other in many fields. Many commercial incidents in the recent times have pushed the capitalistic progress of the country further, opposed by the traditional knights, despising the greed and corruption that comes with it. This gave rise to the huge developmental gap between the highly advanced metropolitan complexes of nomadic cities and the more remote, rural regions mostly populated by sedentary villages. Despite the huge modernization of the nation, Kazimierz still retains some feudal traditions like chattel slavery and hierarchical structure. The infected are treated better than in most other countries, but still face many issues due to discrimination, such as underground gladiatorial fights being hosted with them as participants, as well as creations of underground infected ghettos. Because of its long martial traditions, coming from the knight families, Kazimierz possesses a strong military force that was able to defend its territories from the expansionist attempts from its neighbors for years. Kazimierz is inspired by Poland, with some Western Europe elements. Pinus Sylvestris Club, a nightclub consisting of only infected knights, created by Sona the Flametail Knight. They participate in major night tournaments to raise awareness and help the situation of the infected of Kazimierz. Sierrak, country bordering Colombia, Kazimierz, Minos, and Victoria. It is located on the central mountain range of Terra, with the majority of its territory being on Mount Carlan, the tallest mountain on the continent. It is a theocracy built around the worship of Sierragander, the patron goddess of the nation, who led her followers to settle on the mountain, away from wars and suffering of other regions. Sierragander's powers are still apparent, as she protects the region, making it completely free of catastrophes. Sierrak practiced strict isolationism for most of its history, but due to the recent geopolitical changes on Terra, after quite the struggle against the traditionalists, the country opened its borders and started allowing foreigners into their religion. This started a rapid financial development of the region thanks to trade. Nevertheless, the nation still holds its traditions and religion as one of the most important values. Sierrak is inspired by a mix of mountainous countries, primarily Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, Nepal, Bhutan, and Tibet. Carlan Trade Corporation Limited, a trading company serving as the national institution of Sierrak. While performing the trading duties, the company and the Silverash clan that controls it have been massively influencing Sierrak's political trajectory, including being the main driving force behind decreasing the country's isolationism. Laterano, formerly known as the Lateran City, a city-state bordering Iberia, Leithanion, Rim-Biliton, Syracusa, and Victoria. It is a theocracy ruled by the Pope. The country is primarily populated by Sancta, who founded it, as well as a smaller Liberi population. It is most well known for its stern religious influence and lax culture. Lateran citizens are allowed to live however they see fit, as long as they adhere to the mandates of the law, the supercomputer I mentioned in the race section. Laterano has a de facto monopoly on firearm production due to Sancta's expertise with them. While the country prospers and tries to stabilize the geopolitical situations around the world through their Summit of Nations, they also have a darker side, particularly the erasure and demonizing of Sarkas in their history, largely contributing to their discrimination around Terra, as well as mistreatment of their Liberi population and a very frequent prejudice among Laterans against other races, stemming from their empathy ability and the prosperity of their city that they consider to be a paradise. Laterano is mainly based on Vatican City. There are also some minor influences from Switzerland. Leithanion, formerly known as Leithanian Empire, country bordering Kazimierz, Syracusa, Victoria, and Ursus. It is a confederate elective monarchy, ruled by a Kaiser. Currently, that position is uniquely held by two empresses, rather than one. The country is formed of non-Kreise, each governed by an aristocratic Kurfürsten, who periodically choose the Kaiser to rule over the entire Leithanion from among themselves. The nation is populated mainly by Caprinae and Elafians, with a small Lupa population in the southeast due to a Syracusan border there. This combination makes most of the population naturally talented in arts and music, both of which are deeply ingrained into Leithanion's culture and infrastructure, with many arts-based technologies in place. The country is very classical and deeply studies classical Originium arts, as well as classical music, and they often merge them together into arts manifested through music. Unfortunately, because of their high cultivation and importance of arts and music, those born without talent for them are often seen as defected and are ridiculed in their homeland, without much hope for success in life, so they frequently emigrate to other countries in search of a better environment. The study of arts also brought experiments upon the infected population of Lithanian. After all, they have a rather unique relationship with Originium, from which arts come from. Nowadays, the experiments have eased quite a bit, and infected can live a fairly decent life in Lithanian, as they are valued for their arts abilities and the lack of need for a catalyst. However, once their oripathy progresses into stage 3, they are forcefully euthanized to avoid the risk of spreading the infection, so it's still far from perfect. Lithanian is inspired by German-speaking nations of Central Europe, such as Austria-Hungary, the Holy Roman Empire, Prussia, as well as modern Germany and Austria, with some minor elements from Switzerland. Minos, country bordering Sargon, located directly to the southeast of the mountain range of Shirak. It is a confederacy of 3 city-states practicing Athenian democracy overseen by religious priesthoods. Minos is mostly populated by Fordes and is famous for cultivation of art, its warrior culture giving birth to strong soldiers and weapons, as well as the cult of Minoan heroes, particularly the heroic founders of the nation and the 12 heroes who fought back the independence of the country from Sargon's annexation after being its province for over a century. The nation is one of the oldest countries in Terra that still stand to this day, and was founded by a heroine leading refugees to a place free of strife. Minos is inspired by classical Greece. Rose Island, a pharmaceutical company that also serves as a humanitarian non-government organization and a non-state actor. Their headquarters are stationed on a land ship of the same name and are home to its employees that are hired indiscriminately between non-infected and infected, Terran and Tikas. Rose Island is the central organization of Arknights' story, with the protagonist being one of its 3 leaders. The company's main goals include finding a cure for oripathy as well as improving the current treatment and access to it, improving situation of the infected around the world through humanitarian missions and fighting for their rights, improving the situation of Sarkas and mediating their conflict with Terran races, responding to political and military turmoil around the world with peacemaking purpose, aiding the weak and oppressed in general. Because of its goals and proactiveness in many recent major political incidents, Rose Island has gained quite a bit of attention from a lot of actors around the world. While many consider them to be a benevolent organization trying to make Terra a better place, quite a few people are skeptical, and the more malignant actors are wary of their actions in fear of losing their power. Rose Island is extensively explored in the story and has many divisions. I will now quickly break down the most important ones. Rose Island Elite Operators. Special Forces unit consisting of distinguished field operators, many of which are ex-members of Rose Island's predecessor, Babel. The Elite Op is usually only deployed when authorized directly by the company's leaders and are used for the most important and dangerous missions. Rose Island Operations Team A4. A tactical squad made up of veteran combatants, usually working behind the scenes as a tactical reserve team. Rose Island Operations Reserve Team A1. An operational reserve squad of trainees, 3 teenagers that used to serve the Toronto Police Department in Colombia, and 2 sisters that joined Rose Island to treat oripathy of one of them. Rose Island Operations Reserve Team A4. Another operational reserve squad of trainees, teenagers with little to no prior experience. Rose Island Operations Reserve Team A6. Another operational reserve squad of combatants with mostly civilian backgrounds with one exception. They're a bit of a mischief group. Special Warrant Extermination and Elimination Protocol, SWEEP for short. Counterintelligence and Black Ops unit working independently from Rose Island's chain of command. Created after the fall of Babel to prevent future intrigues. Their main goal is to protect the company from inside threats such as spies and saboteurs. Because of their function, files related to SWEEP are strictly confidential, accessible only to high-ranking personnel. Rim Billiton, formerly known as Rim Mining Industry Association or Rim Billiton Association for short. Country located in the southeast of the continent, bordering Kazdal, Laterano, Syracusa, and Dian. It is an anarcho-corporatocratic confederation, lacking any sort of central government. The country is formed by an association of various large familial mining companies, formed from a mix of native inhabitants of the region and remnants of mining colonies of superpowers that used to excavate Originium in the area. Its population is mostly formed of Katus. This association and access to roughly half of Terra's mined Originium supplies give Rimbiliton immense geopolitical importance and allow the nation to remain independent despite the lack of centralized power, restricted resources because of mostly desert terrain, and rather average military strength. Because most of the country's economy is based on Originium mining, Oripath infection rates are quite high, but the infected are treated decently in most companies. Unfortunately, some of them, though, treat them as disposable workforce, so as usual it's not ideal. Rimbiliton is inspired by Australia. Sami. Country in the far north, situated south of Infi Icefield, bordering Kazimierz and Ursus. It is a confederate chiefdom with a rather primitive political system, retaining the ancient ways. Its population mostly consists of Lathians. The inhabitants of Sami mostly live in tribes ruled by snow priests who serve both as chieftains and as shamans, religious leaders. Many Sami tribes have a warrior culture and have been fighting the collapsals coming from Infi Icefields for centuries. This, combined with occasional attempts at Ursus expanding their territory, has led to the country adopting a rather isolationist policy, with many locals having disdain for foreigners. Sami is inspired by the Arctic region and its indigenous tribes, such as the Sami people and the Inuit. Sargon, formerly known as the Sargon Empire. Large country located in the southwestern region of Terra, bordering Bolivar, Colombia, Minos, and Siesta, spanning over the desert and the tropical forest that can be found there. It is a confederate monarchy ruled by the Shahanshah, the King of Kings, who governs the entire country, with regional padishahs and lords Amir ruling over various parts, answering to Shahanshah mainly through yearly tributes. Those regional lords are given quite a bit of autonomy in their respective regions and can rule over them as they see fit, as long as they respect the Shahanshah and adhere to his decrees. Sargon was created through a conquest of the Aslan clan that united all the desert tribes under one banner. It is one of the oldest countries on Terra, and its influence is very apparent, particularly through a very monarchical system being widespread in many Terran countries, its agricultural techniques being implemented universally, and the foundation of a common Terran calendar by the country. Since the conquest of Fen Hovlands in the south, which ended in a victory but led to severe losses, the country has fallen from its glory, internally fracturing into many factions struggling for power. The overall population is very diverse and can be separated into two main parts: the western desert tribes, closely related to Shahanshah's rule, the Sargon proper so to speak, and the eastern jungle tribes that live mostly autonomously, without much interference from Shahanshah and his lords. Many of these tribes still live rather primitive lives and don't have any contact with modern society. Sargon is inspired by the Middle Eastern empires such as Persia and Ottoman Empire, with some influence from Mesoamerica. Syracusa, former electoral district of Lathamien. Syracusa is a benevolent mafia state formed from a confederacy of 21 city-states, ruled over by 12 mafia families known as Dodici Familiae, with a unified leadership of a Capo dei Capi, boss of the bosses. Syracusa's population is majorly Lupo, with a large Lupo population as well. The mafia can be traced back to when Syracusa was a confederation of manors before being annexed by Lathamien. After gaining back their freedom, the country quickly fell into a state of anarchy, with the Familiae fighting for power, until a powerful capo united them all and introduced regular law, as well as the Laterano faith, which, in modified state, became the dominating religion of the country. Nowadays, while the crime is still high due to the country being a mafia state, it is much safer for regular citizens. Other than its mafia, the nation is famous for their cuisine and love for opera. Syracusa is inspired by Italy. Chiave's gang. Small Syracusan street gang led by Chiave. They crossed a few major familiae and were brought into Rose Island through their local office for protection. Ursus, formerly known as the Ursus Empire. Largest country of Terra, bordering Higashi, Kazimierz, Leifanian, Sami, Victoria and Yan, inhabited primarily by the Ursus race. It is an imperial monarchy, known for its military strength and ruthless aggressive expansionism. It emerged through a violent rebellion against the Hippogriff dynasty, changing the Hippogriff Empire into the Ursus Empire. The country has been suffering from internal turmoil, fueled by the failed attempt to conquer Higashi, the two factions of military old guard and loyalist aristocrats struggling for power, and the infected rebellions. Speaking of the infected, Ursus is one of the biggest offenders in their mistreatment on Terra, being incredibly cruel to them. They are constantly hunted by the infected patrols and sent to labor camps in the northern tundra together with political prisoners to mine Originium until they die from oripathy or are systematically killed by the guards. When the mine runs dry, all the infected workers are executed with its closing. Infected who resist being sent to the camp are also killed on the spot. No wonder then that they rebel. In this country they truly have nothing to lose. Ursus is inspired by the Russian Empire. Ursus Student Self-Governing Group, a students' union of several Ursus girls that banded together in their school during the Chernobyl crisis, the central event of the first part of the main story. After they got out of the city, they joined Rhodes Island as operators in exchange for treatment for physical and psychological damage that they suffered during the traumatic event. Victoria, formerly known as the Victorian Empire. Country bordering Kazimierz, Leifanian and Ursus, located in the very center of Terra's heartlands, encompassing its most fertile lands. Victoria is a unitary constitutional monarchy with mostly feline population. It is the most powerful hegemony in the world, with immense influence all around the world. It is one of the first countries to introduce Originium technology, giving it a head start in the political race of this new era. The country's throne has been vacant for over 20 years, since the revolution against the last king, which ended up with his death. This caused civil unrest to steadily rise, while the Grand Dukes fight for power behind the scenes. This has weakened the empire and, combined with other countries' rapid advancements, threatens its position as the biggest superpower of Terra. Victoria is inspired by the British Empire, particularly its Victorian era. Glasgow. Royal Guard posing as a street gang led by the true heir of Victoria's throne that is currently in hiding. The gang used to be an actual, regular one before the heir joined them and quickly became the leader, changing how things were in Glasgow quite a bit. I'll leave more details for the Londinium crisis focused videos in the future. Glasgow is inspired by the Camelot and the Knights of the Round Table. Terra, formerly known as the Kingdom of Timhark, an autocracy that used to be a monarchy ruled by an offshoot of the Victorian Draco royalty, but was annexed by Victoria in order to fight off the Knights-Moran conquest around 1,000 years ago. Since then, the Victorian royalty has progressively attempted to marginalize the Terrans, with the discrimination increasing once the Aslans replaced the Dracos on the throne. This resulted in an increase in nationalism between the Terrans and finally gave birth to their separatist movement, employing violent and aggressive strategies to retake their independence. Terra is inspired by Ireland. Yan, formerly known as Great Yan, country in the Far East, bordering Higashi, Kazdel and Ursus. It is an imperial monarchy ruled by the true Long emperors, with a strong central bureaucracy of mandarins under him. The country is the biggest superpower of the East, known for its unique and rich culture and history, legislation, and robust economy. While they haven't been a part of a large-scale conflict for a long time, they maintain their military well, and it remains relatively strong. Yan's population is very diverse, with various races originating from the original 100 clans that were united under one banner when the country was founded. The infected of Yan have some leniency, but their traveling is restricted overall. Their treatment is fairly average comparatively to other Terran countries. One of the main reasons for Yan's prosperity is an event known as the Great Hunt, in which the Emperor started a war against the Ferranmuts after finding out evidence they're not completely immortal, to get freedom from their influence and prove Yan and its mortals to truly rule the world. While the war ended with heavy casualties, it was victorious and led to centuries of peace and prosperity for the country. Yan is inspired by China, particularly during the Tang and Ming dynasties. Sui. Sui is a Furanmut that participated in the Great Hunt, but instead of fighting the Yanese, he fought with them against other Furanmuts, feigning loyalty to the country. This was, however, a manipulative ploy in which he hoped to banish his kin and become the sole god of Yan, ruling over it. The emperor, however, saw right through it and banished the Furanmut to the tomb underground at the end of Great Hunt, where he shattered into 12 pieces. The pieces transformed into human-like beings, representing various aspects of Sui and his godlike abilities. These fragments consider each other siblings and are prevalent in many stories regarding Yan. Sui and his fragments are inspired by the Dragon King from Asian mythology. Lungmen. A devolved city-state of Yan and its autonomous region. Lungmen is a prosperous nomadic city between Ursus and Kazdal, with a special economic zone and largely independent government ruled by a member of the imperial family. Because of its autonomy, Lungmen is more open to international interactions and flourishes economically thanks to it, with its currency, Lungmen dollar, being accepted pretty much worldwide. The city-state treats the infected harshly and confines them to the slums, being unable to enter other parts of the city. Lungmen is inspired by Hong Kong, with some elements of Shanghai and Shenzhen. Lee's Detective Agency, a private detective agency and a handyman business based in Lungmen, ran by Lee and his found family. Lungmen Guard Department, Gendarmerie of Lungmen, serving as both its law enforcement and military force, tasked with maintaining the city's peace, most likely inspired by the Hong Kong police force. Penguin Logistics, a logistics and delivery service company based in Lungmen, run by a famous rapper. The company takes many jobs including parcel delivery, escorts and armed deliveries. Its numerous involvements in organized crime altercations led to questions surrounding its legality. Alright, that's all the most important factions of the game. Naturally, it wasn't all of them. I only really listed the countries and factions listed by the game and directly used as a game mechanic, as if I try to describe literally all of them, this video would be several hours long. So for the other ones, I'll save their exposure for videos where they'll be relevant. And with that, this video comes to an end. I know there was a lot of information and you probably didn't catch all of it, but just the general gist is enough to not get lost in the beginning of the story. You'll learn more as you dive deeper in no time, so don't stress it. I hope you found this video helpful, informative and interesting, and that it encouraged you to learn more about the world of Arknights, as it is a truly fascinating work of fiction, and if you're an Enfield player, it will definitely help in understanding more about that game's story too. If you have any questions or noticed any mistakes that I possibly made, I'll be glad to engage in a discussion with you in the comments. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in my future videos. Bye!